Hello everyone, it's Amy back here from J&A Hopeful Acres, and today I figured that I would just do a little video on my roots and where I came from, and just a little bit about, I guess, me. I grew up in a little town about 10 miles from where we actually are right now. Population was, well, it says 1,200, but they have to be counting the cats and dogs because I'm telling you, there's not 1,200 people there. I actually grew up with my great-grandparents. They raised me for the reasons I won't get into them, but basically I was taken away from my mom when I was 3 years old due to just things that happened in my life where my mother just was not able to care for me. Move on, to current day, I actually take care of my mom now, here and there, because my mother just is not, my mother suffers from epilepsy, and so she has the brain mentality of about, I'm going to say about a 16-year-old. So she can't really do, the things that a normal 60-some-year-old woman can do. She does live alone, but she lives in, an income-based housing. But I still go over there and I take care of her. I make sure that she has her meds. I make sure that, her meds are put in, like the pill reminders and things like that. My second daughter and granddaughter actually live like 2 doors down from her in an apartment complex. They all live in like a HUD-based housing. So my second daughter lives 2 doors down from her. And so when I'm not able to get up there day to day, my daughter actually goes over there and makes sure that she's okay and, still, able to, survive and whatnot. And my second daughter actually makes her food and whatnot because my mother actually does not, cook her own food and whatnot. But when I was a kid, I lived with my great-grandparents. They actually got custody of me when I was 3 years old. And my great-grandfather worked for the Burlington Northern, which is now Burlington Northern Santa Fe. But when he retired, he was a signalman for the Burlington Northern, and he was given a 80-foot Pullman train car. And so I was raised in a train car. I don't know if I can find a picture, but if I can, I will post a picture of it in here. But I was raised in a train car, and my great-grandparents raised me from the time I was 3 until I was 16. And I was raised on a homestead. My grandmother grew her own crops. We had sheep, we had cows, we had pigs, we had chickens, we had horses, we had, you name it. We did not have goats, but we had just about every other animal that you can think of. I pulled cows, I pulled horses, I pulled pigs, I did the whole thing. I went as far as, helping artificially inseminate pigs, artificially inseminating sheep. I mean, you name it. Like I said, I did live with them my entire life. She raised me, taught me all the values that I have today. I was actually, I'm actually, raised old school. So, when I met my husband, I, was raised under the value system that, they open the doors for you. They pay for all the dates. They, we're talking, old school, like 50s, 60s, that type of, value system. And so when I was 16, I actually ended up being stupid, as 16-year-old teenagers do, and I got put into foster care. And that's where I actually met my husband, is when I was in foster care. And I still was able to go home and see my grandparents and whatnot. And when I was able, when I was dating my husband and whatnot, we actually would go out to the train car, and I would see my grandma and grandpa, and whatnot. And after we got married, my grandma got, really ill, and I get very emotional about it because that woman was, everything to me, and she meant the world to me. And I lost her in 2008 at 100. So she made it to 100, and she gave me the value system. She gave me literally everything that she could have. They were actually traveling when they got the call that I needed to be, put with somebody. And instead of her, going and saying, no, I don't, I don't want a child, they came back from Alaska, and they, came back and they adopted me and put me into their care. And they were 70 years old when they got me. And, so I hold a lot of love in my heart for them, because I don't know many 70-year-old people, women, couples, any couples at 70 years old that would stop their life to take on a 3-year-old child and raise a 3-year-old child from the time that they, in their toddler years all the way up into their, graduating years. And they did. They literally stopped what they were doing at the age of 70 and raised me all the way up until I was 16. So, literally my values that I have gotten have come from, this woman. And when she passed away at 100, I went to the nursing home where she was at, and I remember sitting there telling her that it was okay, because she used to holler my name. My middle name is Joe, and so she always called me her little Amy Joe. And so she would holler down the nursing home, where's my little Amy Joe? And so when it got to be that time, the executor of the land had called me and said, it's getting to be that time. And so I went in and I told her, Grandma, it's okay. I'm fine. John and I are here. I'm totally okay. You're fine. You can go be with Grandpa now. And so my dream has always been to homestead, so that I can carry on that legacy and, carry on the homesteading tradition for my great-grandma, because my great-grandma always said, you're gonna be my little Amy, and you're gonna do everything that, I taught you. And, she had all these things that she would cook and do, but she was one of those women that when Grandma was in the kitchen, you just didn't come in there. I mean, she just, that was just her thing. She never wanted anybody in the kitchen. So therefore, I'm now 42 years old and still really don't know how to cook. So my husband is the one that does most of the cooking in our house, because I just don't know how to cook. Not because I'm inept, I just never was taught. And so, I always say that I would love to garden, but I literally kill everything. I've got the blackest thumb that there is, because I everything I've tried to grow, I either overwater, underwater, or I just flat out kill, because I don't know what I'm doing. So there is kind of my roots and where I came from. And I'm sorry, I didn't want to make this an emotional video. I don't like to cry on camera, but there is, my roots. And my grandma, my great-grandma, like I said, was, she's my pushing factor as to why I want to homestead, and why I, even wanted to do this, because that woman was my everything and is still to this day my everything. And she is the reason why, other than, Jesus, the reason why I breathe, and my husband's dad. But she is the reason why I breathe, because that woman gave up everything for me. And I will be the best grandma that I can to my grandkids, because she taught me what it was like to be a grandma, to be a mom, and to be a wife. She was everything and is everything to me. So there are my roots. If you never say, if you never meet anybody else in life, if you ever do anything in life, always stay humble, always stay kind. And that was one thing she always taught me. Always stay humble, always stay kind. And, if you don't have it, you don't have it. Don't use credit cards. And, if you've got a little extra, give it to somebody. If you've got an extra $1 and you see somebody struggling and you know that extra $1 they might be able to use, give it to them, because obviously maybe they need it a little bit worse than you do. So I guess that's my little tidbit of advice in this Christmas season, is there's always somebody worse off than you. And maybe someday the words of my grandma will come back to help somebody else. So there's where my roots came from. I hope you all have a great day. Please subscribe, please like my video, and please share. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.